Hello, everybody, and welcome to my Boomer Buddies podcast, where we tell it like it was and is. I'm your host, Rick Reed. Today, we have a really iconic TV show and one of my favorite Boomer Buddies, Mr. John Hayes. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Rick, and it remains an honor to be considered a Boomer Buddy. I'm excited about this show also.
And if you have seen the show before, John has it in his contract that we have to show or mention actor and singer Linda Carter, and today is no exception. The My Boomer Buddies detectives has discovered that Linda Carter is a big fan of John Hayes, so we'll get that right out of the way. You happy about that, John?
I can't go on. We have to stop the show.
All right, John.
No, no, no.
Well, let's go
Continue.
ahead. Why don't you reveal the topic of today's episode?
Today we're going to talk about the television show Gilligan's Island.
Yeah.
And Gilligan's Island originally ran from 1964 to 1967, covering 98 episodes. Now, I'm going to say I'm surprised it was only 98 because it seems to me that this show has been running continuously in syndication for my entire childhood. And I was surprised that it was only 98. It seems like many, many more, but
Well,
research has uncovered 98, so we'll go with 98.
98 shows, that's a little over 32 episodes a year. That's actually almost 4 or 5 years of episodes in today's world if you're doing a TV show. So they really pump them out. And you mentioned that they're on for 3 years and the ratings are pretty good, right?
Yeah, the ratings were solid. The first year was number 18 in the Nielsen ratings, and then went to 22, and then dropped to number 49, and I think that dropped to 49. Who could have predicted the success it would have in syndication?
Yeah, I've been reading Russell Johnson, who played the professor. I've been reading his book. It was my brother's book. And he said on there that the ratings were okay. You show the ratings in that third year well enough to be back on TV again for another season. The head of programming for CBS, his wife really liked Gunsmoke. So when it came down to the choice, the executive chose Gunsmoke over Gilligan's Island. But perhaps it was running its course. How many things can you do with that whole concept? And speaking of the concept, what was the premise of the show, John?
The premise of the show is that seven castaways are stranded on an uncharted desert island after a 3-hour tour gone wrong. I mean, for us boomers, I mean, does anyone not know the premise? But for the benefit of those generations that followed us, maybe they didn't see this in syndication, but I still think it's important to go over the premise of the show and certainly review that.
My Boomer Buddies podcast is seen by people around the world, believe it or not. I get some comments, and for their benefit, maybe they haven't seen it, but it's in so many languages and it's been in syndication for so many years. I find that hard to believe. Maybe somebody down in a small desert island never saw it. The show is not very serious, right?
Yeah, I would classify it as lighthearted, slapstick comedy. Nothing too serious ever was on the show.
Let's just give a breakdown of who the characters were.
Yeah, seven primary characters, and I'll say the star of the show was Gilligan. The show is named after him, so Gilligan was played by actor Bob Denver, and he was the bumbling first mate and provided a lot of comic relief in the show.
Yeah, and he also was Maynard G. Krebs on Dobie Gillis, The Many Loves of Dobie Gillis. And he was a beatnik on that show. Do you know what Gilligan's full name was?
I do not. I bet it's in that book, though.
Gilligan's full name was Willie Gilligan.
All right. Also, the role of the skipper was played by Alan Hale Jr. And he was the captain of the boat. He serves as a bit of I get kind of the father figure aspect of him. And even going deeper, the Gilligan and Skipper relationship, I view that a little bit like a little bit of a Laurel and Hardy thing going on, where you got the heavyset guy picking on the skinny guy, and
Oh
so
yeah, that's a good comparison. And Alan Hale, his dad, senior, played in a lot of movies back in the day. Robin Hood, he played Little John in Robin Hood, for example, with Errol Flynn. But Alan Hale Jr. was a big, lovable guy in real life too. His character's name on the show, besides Skipper, was Jonas Grumby.
Alan Hale Jr. He played a part of one of my favorite episodes of Lassie. the episode where Lassie gets lost. He's in that, and if you've never watched that episode of Lassie, look out. That's a tearjerker, that one. But Alan
He's
Hale plays a big, lovable guy in that episode.
Yeah, and he also played on an episode that I saw last night on Perry Mason. He played he played this big, brash, rich guy from Texas, bigger than life, and he's part of a scheme, and it backfired on him. That's all I'll say. But yeah, he was a character actor too before the part Skipper on Gilligan's Island. Who else do we have on the main
We also
cast?
have the millionaire and his wife, Thurston Howell III and Lovey Howell. They were played by Jim Backus and Natalie Schaefer, and they were the wealthy elitists on the show.
Correct. And Jim Backus had a voice part well known for the cartoon character Mr. Magoo. And also Natalie Schaefer, I got a couple of things about her that are interesting. Her name on the show was Lovey Wentworth Howell. And some say that her first name was Eunice. And according to the professor book, they didn't mention the Eunice part. Natalie Schaefer, she lied about her age. The reason that she tried out for the part on Gilligan's Island, she wasn't much for the script. She just wanted a free trip to Hawaii. And that's the truth.
Nice motivation. I'd go for that. Just last week, I watched the movie Rebel Without a Cause with James Dean. Jim Backus plays James Dean's father in the movie.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah, he played some good parts. And who else on the show?
We have the movie star Ginger Grant is played by actress Tina Louise. Glamorous movie star. I was amazed at how pristine her dresses were throughout the whole history of the show. Professor must have really whipped up some good dry cleaning or soap. I mean, those outfits are beautiful.
And Tina Louise, Ginger Grant on the show. Ginger Grant packed a lot of gowns and outfits for a 3-hour tour, and that can be said for a lot of the cast. Tina Louise, even during the filming of the shows, she complained because she felt like this part was way beneath her status as an actress. And she caused a lot of problems with the producers in particular and was pretty much a diva. But she seemed to get along with the cast members by the reports that I've seen. And again, from Russell Johnson's book. He was very kind in the book and he didn't rip a lot of people or anything. So take that into account. Who else do we
And
have?
we have the role of Marianne, or Marianne Summers, was played by actress Dawn Wells, and she was the girl next door, the farm girl. Throughout the show, though, I was amazed at the things that she could cook. She found some way to bake pies on that island. I don't know how they got the flour for the pies. I guess there is such a thing as coconut flour. Maybe the professor found a way to get coconut flour for Marianne to make those pies. But she was a wizard in the kitchen, along with being an all-around good Midwestern hardworking farm girl.
Yeah, and as a farm girl, I'm sure she was very creative about finding ingredients for recipes. With the help of the professor, I believe you're right. The coconut cream pies, well known for. And she was one of the favorite characters. What else do we have on there that we haven't talked about?
Well, the author of your book, we have the professor, played by Russell Johnson.
Yeah, Russell Johnson was pretty creative in that role. They had him doing some crazy things. I should say that Russell Johnson was also an accomplished actor on stage and movies. He did some sci-fi movies that you can check out. And he also thought the part was a little beneath him, but he ended up embracing it. His character's full name was Professor Roy Hinckley, but you only really heard him called the Professor.
So, and I was amazed at this precise reference is going to come in later to our television vocabulary. The professor was a bit of a MacGyver. He could take these different coconuts and vines and things like that and make all kinds of wonderful inventions to help the castaways on the island.
That's a great point, John. He puts in his book some of the things that, as professor, he invented. And I'm going to quote him here, okay? Russell Johnson from his book, Here on Gilligan's Isle. Okay, so I could build a boat. The professor improvised with gadgets and concocted some pretty wild antidotes, but I must refute something. Despite what you hear, the professor never built a nuclear reactor or a satellite communication system out of clamshells. Here's an inventory of what he did build. A bamboo lie detector he hooked up to the ship's horn and the radio's batteries, shark repellent, a coconut shell battery recharger, a bamboo telescope, a jetpack fuel, a strychnine serum that temporarily paralyzes Gilligan, a Captabora berry extract to remedy Gilligan's double vision, a helium balloon, which were rubber raincoats sewn together and sealed with tree sap, a bamboo xylophone, one of my favorites, soap made from plant fats, a Geiger counter, lead radiation suits and makeup protection for a meteoric cosmic ray. He did a pedal powered bamboo sewing machine, an electrode linked to a pedal powered generator, a washing machine, water pump, and telegraph, all pedal powered, an assortment of hair tonics, antiseptics, poisons, spider cider, and that was to kill off gargantuan black morning spider, and even a batch of nitroglycerin. And last but not least, he invented Mr. Howell's roulette wheel and pool table. So, right out of Russell Johnson's book here on Gilligan's Isle, we get the full load of what he invented.
Do you have a favorite of those inventions that you listed there?
Well, I did like the bamboo telescope and the lie detector that he hooked up.
I agree on the lie detector. That was out of bamboo, the ship's horn, and a gourd that you placed on your head. You could build a lie detector out of it. That is quite impressive.
And I should point out, John, that there was another character's voice that was heard on many, many episodes, but uncredited. It was the radio announcer that they'd get on that portable radio. That was Charles Maxwell. That was his voice. Okay, let's get to some common themes from the show, both observation and then also let's talk some trivia. So go ahead, John.
Okay, the common themes, it seems they were always trying to escape, and they had quite a, I mean, for being a remote desert island, they had quite a few visitors who would come to the island. But one of the things I think that struck me was that I think the show in general is a little bit of a failure of the search and rescue and the Coast Guard. I mean, how far away from Hawaii can a ship drift in a day? I mean, it's not going to be thousands of miles, will it? I mean, they should be able to say, like, all right, in a bad storm, the ship can drift 100 miles. It shouldn't be a mystery where they're at. So I thought kind of the search and rescue and the Coast Guard kind of let them down. They should have been able to find them much sooner.
That's a great point, John. And also, the characters that would somehow get on that island, they never were able or willing to get them off the island. Once they left, why didn't they report them? That's what kind of gets me about the show. But again, it's just a fantasy, silly comedy. I think the listeners all had the same grievances. Yeah, it's universal, the grievances, I'd have to say. Do you have any trivia that you want to talk about by some of these guests that came on?
I do have a little bit of trivia. This is more about the cast member trivia. Dawn Wells, the actress who played Mary Ann, she was Miss Nevada, 1959. So not exactly the girl next door. I mean, she had a beauty aspect to her, certainly. And I discovered this little tidbit in my research that Jim Backus, one of his grade school teachers, was Margaret Hamilton, who went on to play the Wicked Witch of the West in The Wizard of Oz. I thought that was fascinating. Oh, this covers the whole cast in general. Okay, here's a trivia question for you, Rick.
Yes.
After the show aired, I'll say the 7 major cast members went on to do various TV and movie roles. And one of the TV shows in the mid-70s to mid-80s was The Love Boat. 6 out of the 7 major characters appeared on The Love Boat. Can you guess the one cast member who never appeared on the TV show Love Boat?
Oh, I'd have to say that it's Tina Louise.
Oh, it's the author of your book.
Russell Johnson didn't
Russell
go?
Johnson didn't appear on.
Goodness.
Didn't appear. One important distinction: in 1978, Russell Johnson appeared on the TV show Wonder Woman. Linda Carter.
Wonder Woman. Don't get excited now, John. That's your gal, but you're also her guy. Yeah, one thing I'd like to throw in about the professor, stranded on an island, right? Guess where he ended up living with his wife? Up at Puget Sound on an island. And he found that so ironic, that's where he found peace. An interesting book. You should pick it up if you're a Gilligan's Island fan.
Yeah.
And out of all of the cast members, the only one that really got royalties or residuals on the show was Dawn Wells. she was pretty smart about writing that into her contract. So she did make some money off of that. Ironically, when she died, she had some health problems and everything. And it's reported she had about $50,000 to her name. She had to pay for a lot of things. May she rest in peace. We lost her in 2020. The only living cast member, you know who that is, John? Care to take a shot?
Tina Louise.
Correct. She is 91 and the only living regular cast member. And I know that Kurt Russell was a little kid on there, little Tarzan type boy on one of the episodes, but we're talking regular cast members here.
In 1992, we actually viewed the original pilot episode. So the pilot episode is the original, not episode number 1, but it's the pilot episode. And for that pilot episode, along with having a slightly different cast, the pilot episode featured a theme song that had more of a calypso vibe to it. And this theme song was written by a composer named Johnny Williams. Now, eventually, they did not use the Johnny Williams composition. They went with the Sherwood Schwartz song. But don't feel bad for Johnny Williams, because eventually he dropped the Johnny, just went by John Williams, the same John Williams who's been nominated for 54 Oscars, winning 5 of them. So he did okay after Gilligan's Island.
John Williams, the composer. That was Star Wars, right?
Yes, yeah.
Oh,
Indiana
cool.
Jones, Star Wars, so many movies he's been nominated for.
You're right. He did all right. And then, of course, the first season, Black and White, they had a theme song that was since changed. And do you know why they changed that theme song?
I've heard a couple of things, but in a cool way. I understand Bob Denver didn't think that was fair and chose to make them change it. He got that changed for the other cast members, which I think, if that's true, that's an awesome story.
Yeah, I've heard that as well. At the end, instead of saying the professor and Marianne, they said, and the rest. That caused a lot of, that's not fair. You can't do that. So threats were made, and yeah, Bob Denver, what a guy. And I think some of the other castmates felt the same way too. I think this would be a good time for us to actually listen to the first season's theme song. You ready, John?
Yep.
Let's go.
Just sit right back and you'll hear a tale of a fateful trip that started from this tropic port aboard this tiny ship. The mate was a mighty sailing man, the skipper brave and sure. 5 passengers set sail that day for a 3-hour tour, a 3-hour tour. The weather started getting rough, the tiny ship was tossed. If not for the courage of the fearless crew, the minnow would be lost, the minnow would be lost. The ship's aground on the shore of this uncharted desert isle, with Gilligan, the skipper too, the millionaire and his wife, the movie star, and the rest are here on Gilligan's Isle.
What struck me watching that first season clip, when they talked about if it wasn't for the courage of the fearless crew, the minnow would be lost. It shows Gilligan trying to grab the mast and his hat. It was so Laurel and Hardy. And that just cracks me up. Plus the song stuck in all our heads. You saw at the end where they didn't include the professor or Marianne. And I'm glad that changed personally. How about you?
Yeah. Why leave those 2 off? They're part of the show as much as anyone else, and they had various plot points surrounding them, so they should be given credit. Yeah,
absolutely. How about if we listen to the second theme to compare? And it also goes into the ending theme of the show. You may not have noticed, but in that scene where they were leaving the port, there was an American flag at half-mast. When they filmed that, President Kennedy had been assassinated at the same point in time. So the flag was lowered to half-mast. Okay. All right, let's listen now to the second year's theme song. Here we go.
Just sit right back and you'll hear a tale of a fateful trip that started from this tropic port aboard this tiny ship. The mate was a mighty sailing man, the skipper brave and sure. 5 passengers set sail that day for a 3-hour tour. A 3-hour tour. The weather started getting rough, the tiny ship was tossed. If not for the courage of the fearless crew, the minnow would be lost. The minnow would be lost. The ship's aground on the shore of this uncharted desert isle, with Gilligan, the skipper too, a millionaire and his wife, the movie star, the professor and Mary Ann, here on Gilligan's Island. Now this is the tale of our castaways. They're here for a long, long time. They'll have to make the best of things. It's an uphill climb. The first mate and his skipper too will do their very best to make the others comfortable in their tropic island nest.
No phone, no light,
No motor cars, not a single luxury. Like Robinson Crusoe, it's primitive as can be. So join us here each week, my friends. You're sure to get a smile from 7 stranded castaways here on Gilligan's Island.
That was fun. They made some changes when they talked about if not for the courage of the fearless crew. There's actually a close-up of Gilligan and the skipper, and they're still looking like Laurel and Hardy. But nice to have the professor and Mary Ann recognized at the end of that theme. So now that we have that firmly embedded in all the listener and viewers' ears, let's talk a little bit more about the show. The kind of humor on there was a little slapstick, a lot of slapstick physical humor, especially with Gilligan. And I have to say that Alan Hale Jr., he broke either his wrist or his arm, but didn't make a big deal out of it because, well, he didn't want any delay in shooting and any crew members to lose money for not being able to work. What a good guy Alan Hale Jr. was. He could have just said, you know what? I'm hurt. Let's stop everything. I need medical attention. But he didn't do that. So credit to him. By all accounts, just a really great guy.
Cool story.
Yeah. Again, that's in the book, Russell Johnson. There's so many behind the scenes things about that show that are interesting. I find that the stuff that we do know about is interesting as well. Sherwood Schwartz, the producer and writer of the show, also produced another TV show. John, you know what that was?
Brady Bunch?
Yeah. How'd you know
that? I don't know where that came from.
Yeah. Let's take the time here, John, to ask the listeners and viewers, if you have any comments, please put them down below on YouTube. We love to see your comments, and you might have some tidbits we haven't mentioned yet. Put them on there, and just any feedback about the show, any show ideas for future content, we'd love to hear that as well. John loves to do the research on these shows. He provides a lot of really good content and much appreciated. John Hayes is really good at what he does, and it's always fun to have him on here.
Thank you.
So we've thrown a lot of information and tidbits at you viewers and listeners out there. Share, comment, and please like. That really helps the algorithms, and we want to bring you more content. We want more listeners and viewers to watch. So thank you for that. Now, John, I know on our outline, there's one more big question that you have. And what is that?
I think it's the question many baby boomers ask each other, but I'm going to ask you the very important question, Rick. Ginger or Mary Ann?
And that was on a commercial back in the day, I remember. But that is a question, Ginger or Mary Ann? And my answer is yes.
Oh!
Yes, I like them both. I thought their qualities, I thought they were both really, really good. Each good in their own ways. I'll put it that way. How about you, John Hayes? Ginger or Mary Ann?
How about this? And you played it very safe, and I'm going to do something similar. I would say in my younger, junior high school days, definitely Ginger. And then as I've grown in wisdom and maturity, the Ginger types take a lot of energy. So, maybe the Mary Ann is a more appropriate answer for me at this stage of my life. But I'm also going to say that that whole question would have been a lot more difficult because in 1963, a little known actress by the name of Raquel Welch auditioned for the part of Mary Ann. So that could have been a whole nother long lasting controversy if Raquel Welch had been given the part of Mary Ann. And also, you mentioned earlier, I'm going to say for guys of a certain age. Now, keep in mind, Natalie Schaefer, we didn't learn her age until much later after the show had aired, but Natalie Schaefer on that show is 63. She looks really good for 63. So I'm going to throw that. We may have to expand the question: Ginger, Mary Ann, or Mrs. Owl? I mean,
Sure, you got
I
to
thought she
open
looked
it up,
fantastic.
right?
Yeah. Another tidbit: a man not necessarily known for his acting, but more for his NFL playing career. NFL quarterback Roman Gabriel made his acting debut in Gilligan's Island in the year 1966. He played a native, so
Oh,
very
really? Really?
very demanding part. Yes, but Roman Gabriel, NFL quarterback, made his acting debut on Gilligan's Island.
Oh, that's a great tidbit. I have to say that the part of Gilligan, somebody that they considered before Bob Denver, was Jerry Van Dyke, Dick Van Dyke's brother. But Jerry turned it down reportedly because he didn't think the show would last. So I found that interesting. The other thing about the episodes is that they really had to vary the topics just to keep it fresh and maybe take it away from the island, at least in a dream sequence. There's one where the professor was Sherlock Holmes in a vampire dream sequence. Remember, they had a big game hunter come on there, and instead of big game, he was hunting them. That was an episode. In the Invasion, Gilligan dreams he's a secret agent. Skipper's not his mother, but rather an evil imposter dressed like his mother. They had to get very creative with some of these episodes. Another dream-inspired episode, Lord Admiral Gilligan, whose ship is invaded by pirate cutthroats. So yeah, they had to do a lot of interesting writing to keep the show on the air for 3 years. John, this has been really a fun exercise in reminiscing about a show we saw as kids and we saw it even when we were older, and generations have followed since, several generations. So today's show is about Gilligan's Island, the characters, some of the episodes, some background tidbits. Fascinating show that still lives on today in syndication. And even though the main characters, nobody really got rich off of that, they're famous for all eternity. Gilligan's Island was an iconic show that still lives on. And I'm so glad that we talked about that today, John Hayes. And for all of you out there listening and viewing, again, comment. We'd love to hear from you. Comment below on YouTube. Send an email to myboomerbuddies4@gmail.com. That's myboomerbuddies4, the number 4, @gmail.com. John, do you have any closing comments? I'd love to hear what you have to say after going through this episode.
I just wanted to say thank you. I think of all the Boomer Buddies, you could have selected any one of us or a group of us to cover this topic. It seems that it's a topic we're all familiar with. So it's been an honor to be on this show. Thank you.
Thanks for your prep and being you. You're one of the favorites on here. I always get good comments about when you're on the show. For John Hayes, I'm Rick Reed, My Boomer Buddies podcast. Thanks for watching. And until next time, we'll see you
Around the block.